Hello and welcome to another episode of the London Something podcast with myself, DJ Ron. I'd like to say thank you very much to everybody who's been joining us over this journey of ours, to all of you who have been subscribing and liking and commenting, and also people out when I see them out, and you've been really complimentary about the episodes that we've been putting on here. Just before I go any further, I'd like to also thank West End DJ who have been really supportive of our campaign since the start. Also, if possible, I'd like to ask a little favour as well. For some reason, don't ask me why, but it makes a difference if you subscribe. And my missus found out that there's 54% of you who watch the show who actually don't subscribe. So if you can, it would be really helpful if you could just kind of click the button and I don't know how it helps. I'll have to find out and I'll let you know in the other episode how it helps. Anyway, all that aside, our next guest, funny enough, we're going to do something which we've never done before. Our next guest has actually been on the podcast already. And the reason he's back here again today is because you asked for it. The minute we finished with the last podcast, everybody was like, oh, you didn't speak about this and you didn't speak about that. And why? Because it was such a long podcast that we spoke more about his life rather than his career. Today, we're going to speak more about the career of my good old friend, Micky Finn. How you doing, Mick? You all right?
I'm good.
Back in the hot seat again.
Back in the hot seat.
How you been, mate? All right, yeah?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, good, yeah. I mean, it's been a year. How mad is that? That was
Has it really been a year?
It's been over a year ago.
Really?
Doesn't feel like it, does it?
They say time flies when you're getting old. You know what?
Yeah.
It does get real.
I looked and I
can't believe that.
And I remember saying to you, we'll have to leave it for a while before we do the other one.
Yeah, we were talking months though,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Not a year.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about the last podcast, I suppose before we go on any further is, I'm sure I got really some great messages from that. Just that it helped people, and that's why I was prepared to kind of get the stuff from my childhood out on the table, really, to help people. And we got some great positive messages, but we ain't here to talk about my childhood.
No, but still, just to carry on from that just a little bit, just to say that I saw that and I felt that sort of outpouring of thanks to you was.
I mean, I said to Dyer only Sunday. Someone said to me that they watched that and they went round to their mums, which was great. Their situation happened to be with their mum as well, but it was just nice to. If you can get some stuff out on the table and it helps people go, I'm going to go and get some help. We kind of won,
Yeah, and I suppose with that, for those of you, I mean, it's clear as day. If you haven't seen that episode, then, go and check it out. It's very, very, very deep and personal exposition then of the one we know as Micky Finn. In this instance, we're going to be speaking about your career, Mick.
Yeah.
And going back to the last time we spoke, we kind of touched on, or we came out from when you came out of prison. You came out of prison and...
Seems so foreign to me.
Yeah, such a long time ago.
I don't recognise that person anymore.
No, it's nuts. Funny enough, you had sent me the pictures of you just the other day at the same prison.
Yeah. I think we did touch on that I got invited back up to the prison. You did, yeah,
that's right.
The prison was empty, which was quite eerie in itself. For me, it was... I will never forget that experience because I suppose a lot of people would love to be given the chance to go back where they spent time. And I don't know if everyone would have an out-of-body experience, but I definitely had an out-of-body experience where I could kind of see that 20-year-old with not a lot going on in his life. So I come out in 1987 and I started working with my friend who was a plasterer, started getting into the building game. I was done with that life. The DJ wasn't there at that point. I've always collected music from a young age. I like Gary Newman, I like Bowie, I like Lou Reed. I was into jazz funk. I still bought music. It weren't just, even though we all used to go out clubbing at a young age, I did buy music a lot as well. So I was never going to be a DJ in a million years. Loved music, yes, but I think it was the going out to a club called Future. A friend of mine invited me, so we're mostly talking late '87. Invited me up to a club where he just told me it's bonkers in now.
Where was Future? Whereabouts?
Future is the little club. I don't know if you ever went to an all-dayer at Spectrum or Rage.
Yeah.
But Future was the little club at the back.
At the other entrance.
Yeah, you used to go around the back alley. I think it was called the Kit Kat Club, maybe back in the day, but the night was called Future. So Spectrum wasn't open at the moment, and my friend said, "Come up there, it's bonkers. Like you got to have like one of these things." And where I was kind of, I used to love to experiment, like as a kid. Sadly, I'll come up, and I went up to this club and took half a E, and I never looked back. It was like I was really into hip hop at that point. I still am, but if I was buying music, it was hip hop. It was quite rare, not rare groove, but I'd try and find really rare jazz funk, and that all just got put to the side. And it was like, where do I buy this house music?
But how long were you, that last time you were in prison, how long were you in for?
I've got 12 months.
So you got 12 months. So that means you were in there from '86.
Yeah.
So you were buying music before you went away.
Yeah, I
came out.
Oh, it's really sad, but I kind of was in '84, 85, over to '86.
Right.
Come out in '86 from one sentence. Didn't last long. Back in on another sentence. So I literally done 84, 85, 86 and 87. Not in one go,
no,
obviously.
I understand, yeah. I mean, the only reason I asked was because just getting the sort of like timeline with the music buy-in that you were doing, you know, so...
I mean, I'll go back to... I was into Gary Newman, I was mostly 12, 13. So I've always, like, 7 inches and, you know, like I said in the previous one, I'd creep in... My sister was a big 12-inch... They were the first time I'd ever seen a 12-inch record. My sister had a really cool disco collection, like... So I would undo her lock and get in her room and listen to music. But buying music myself, I'd say 12 onwards.
And then when you were saying you went to, the back of Rage there, and but beforehand you were buying hip hop. Did you already kind of have any kind of thoughts about DJing?
No, not at all.
Not at all, right. Okay.
The same year that I went to Rage is the same year that I'd also been to see Eric B and Rakim, LL Cool J and Public Enemy.
Yeah. You would have been there. We would have been there.
At Hammersmith.
Yeah.
So it's exactly the same year. So the contrast of what a little tablet done.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal.
I mean, I kind of always... I know a lot of jungle and drum and bass heads kind of don't really dig house, but to me, house is the mother.
Who doesn't dig house?
Just not punters.
Okay,
I'm not saying all, but you know, they need to realise that the great grandmother of all of us is house music.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out actually because they're still quite young, a lot of the ravers who are going out in the house. But from my experience, a lot of them do gravitate to a number of different types of music.
Yeah, I get that. And I think, you know, you'll have had... Min Groove was upstairs once in Black Market.
Yeah.
Where you buy a house and Gary, you know that's what it was like. And the drum and bass and jungle was downstairs. And people was like, me and Groove, what are you doing up here? We was at the counter, me and Groove was buying records. What are you doing up here? It's like, this is where we come from.
Yeah.
You know, this is where we come from. If you like it or hate it, I think you still need to respect that this is the ground roots level for, I don't know if you want to say Acid House was mostly birthed out of house anyway. Mm-hmm. But I connected with it because I heard the disco in it.
Mm-hmm. In the house?
In the house.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I could hear that there was a connection for me, maybe not as airy-fairy, maybe on a lot more of an underground level.
Yeah.
But I definitely got the connection to disco.
Yeah. I think that at that time as well, I mean, if you go, which you've still got your record collection, but when I go through my record collection, and I think, right, these records were all out at the same time. There was this house, almost soul music, but then there was also Joey Beltram maybe, and there might have been
totally
R&S label or whatever, and with all of that happening at the same time, DJing across that on the same decks or whatever. In my opinion, I kind of like think that was the early stages of like, you know what, anything goes.
It was anything goes. I was having a conversation maybe only yesterday, and it was like you could play Strings of Life, 130 BPM. Straight after that, Soul to Soul, 92 BPM. It was at the beginning for me. It was a cooking pot. Yes, it was. It was from 87. It was very Chicago house, Detroit techno, which is completely different than the techno we would maybe hear bred in Europe. Had a lot more soul to it, and I couldn't get enough of it. That obviously a lot of people couldn't get enough of it, and I love the kind of. There was no segregation. You know, yes, I don't know, maybe you started getting to 90, 91, like, I just like this, I just like this, I just like this.
Yeah, I think as well that part where it's just, I just like this and I just like that, I think it was also I say it quite a bit now, but I think it was also the sort of, when I say culture of it, it was also the going out and the types of people that would be at each type. You know, like, I think that had a lot to do with it.
Totally.
Yeah, I think that had a lot to do with it.
You know, if you think when we...
More than the music. You know, people love the music, but then when the different when the different types of people...
They are, it was strange.
You'd be like, you know what, I can't have it with those, I can't have that, I'm not going to go to those parties, yeah.
Yeah, I always saw Spectrum as the mothership, and that scene just started having loads of bastard children. But that's not a bad thing, because it was going to happen where you're going to have... It was a really brilliant craze, and the scene back for me in 87, I'm sure it was for you, it was... Everything was stripped back. It didn't matter where you was from. It didn't matter what part of London or if this lot didn't get on with this lot. The races... the class, like everything was stripped back, and you was just either a nice person or a twat. I
think that only happened, I say it only happened, I think a considerable reason why that would have happened was because of ecstasy.
Totally.
Do you know what I mean?
I mean, at the beginning, Ron, like it literally, I could say, I could go to maybe late 87, where you was so individually from that scene, a car would go past you, because you had the uniform on.
Yeah.
The uniform being maybe Chuck Taylor's and some naff gear, but you look like an Acid House head. They were so easy to identify. Right, mate?
That's right.
Never knew him from Adam.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, we'd come out of Clink Street 6 o'clock in the morning, which was at London Bridge. You remember Clink Street?
Yeah, of course.
We'd go up to London Bridge, and there'd be other like-minded people. You'd never known them, like, all right, mate?
You know, that thing you said just now about the class and the and all the mix and whatever, and then going back a step further when you said about, you know, when as time went by, people separated and went their own way, and the fact that we had said that in the early days everything was being played, yeah? You combine all of that together and you can see why it was always going to be inevitable that it would split. Because people are going to gravitate more to one style within that. So there's I mean, you imagine, like, I don't know, earliest 97, 87. Let's just be even go into 88 even, yeah? And you say, like, as early as that, you had all these different genres, which they were.
Totally.
There are all these different genres being played in the same place. You might be like, oh, I love when they bring those techno tunes in.
Totally.
I love all the other stuff, but when those techno tunes go, oh, I love when they play the little break beat and the little break beat comes in and so on. And slowly, somebody turns up. I mean, I did the same thing. And you end up going, you know what, tonight I'm going to nick a little bit more breakbeat in my set. Or, you know what, I'm going to do a little bit more techno in my set. And I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just natural. It's a natural progression.
Not at all. I just think when you've got a brand new scene and everything's getting thrown in the cooking pot, it's only going to take a matter of time for people to go and start whittling out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I love that. I love the beginning because it was brand new for. Yeah, we were used to going out, Ron, and I'm sure you was. It was. You can't go to that area. Everything had, like, conditions on it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't like black people in that club. Everything had conditions of kind of the early 80s, the mid-80s. We used to like going out of London quite a lot, us lot down. We'd go to Southend and we'd go out into the country because we just felt we had a better time.
Yeah.
We didn't go out looking for trouble. So when you come to the acid house scene and then everything was gone.
Yeah.
To me, it was just like,
brilliant.
I couldn't get enough of it.
I wonder, I wonder, obviously, we're not in that, we're not them, you know what I mean? But I wonder if the kids who are going to the drum and bass raves, if they're having that similar experience. I hope so. I really hope so. Maybe not with the music they won't be able to because obviously they're at a drum and bass rave, but I hope they are in terms of the sort of like the camaraderie and
you mean
love
they're getting culturally educated, you mean? Like,
I hope so,
I don't think, you know, I'm not saying it's gone, but I don't think the same racism that was going on, say, in the 80s.
Yeah, it's not
in the beginning of the 80s, mid-80s, National Front March, like skinheads. Not saying, I don't want to come across, but I don't think society is the same as what it was back then. No, it's not, no. But still, I mean, so you come out of prison again. Yeah,
right?
Sadly.
And
so I went to Future, and that night I'd say, so you're talking Paul Oakenfold, early days Paul Oakenfold. First time I'd seen girl DJs, apart from my girl out of Salt and Pepper. They're the first time, so it was Lisa Loud and Nancy Noyes. I actually had to message Nancy the other day to just get me dates in, and I wasn't used to that music. That was quite. That was like Balearic. It was a really cool mixture of.
I always like that name, Balearic.
Balearic.
It's just like
it actually pronounces like Balearic or something.
Is it?
Like that. It's just a set of.
I love a bit of Balearic.
Balearic.
Like, all right.
But to me, it was. I'd grown up where music was. You ain't looking at something and going, "Oh, he's on tonight. I'm going."
Yeah,
you just went to that club.
Yeah.
You know. So it didn't matter who was the music backdrop. They just happened to end up becoming huge artists in their own right. But it was the scene, it was the people, it was the love, you know, people saying sorry and then treading on your foot.
Yeah.
It was, I'd never experienced nothing like that, so I was hooked. I was. And
so when you went there, you kind of like, you're experiencing it from a raver's perspective.
Totally.
Yeah? And you're in this as a raver's perspective. And up until then, you had no aspirations of being a DJ.
No, not at all.
Right, okay. So walk me through that. So walk me through that then, because you imagine there's going to be a number of years, I'd imagine, then. Because 88...
So I've got turntables at that point.
Okay.
I've got turntables. I ain't got techniques. I've got whatever, but all I've got them for is because I'm getting charged with trying to tape off the radio.
You sure that was it? Because think about it. Think about it, and you know how our memory sometimes plays with us, yeah? You're out there, you're raving.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to go and buy 2 decks?
No. I've got turntables before I'm raving.
Ah, I'm with you, right, okay,
I'm still
yeah.
I'm playing hip-hop.
Yeah.
But all I've got that for is because I keep trying to tape off the radio and matey keeps talking and he's jarring me.
Yeah.
So if I go and get some turntables, I've got my own records, I start doing my own tapes.
Ah, I'm with you. Yeah, so do you think that subconsciously came from the hip-hop background then?
Back there's something, I've gone out and bought turntables
must have been,
for a reason, right?
Must have been. It wasn't because of the guy talking. There had to be another sort of like something in the background going when you're dreaming.
Maybe.
And get some decks.
I said to my mate the other day, I said, isn't it weird? Look, I sent him Play It At Your Own Risk, right? The African Bambata and all that. So I'm like, I'm 17 when I bought this record, but I'm putting my speakers on the windowsill. Mm-hmm. My dad was never, my dad brought us up, so we had the run of the house. My dad was at work all day. We was liberty takers, right? So my speakers were on the windowsill and I'm playing Play It At Your Own Risk to the estate.
Yeah.
And I would put different records on. Is that subconsciously I want to be a DJ?
Yeah, it's the beginning.
Because they're the audience.
Yeah,
It
is that.
But never once did I think, right, if I do
I'm
this...
going to be up. I'm going to,
you know...
They're two very different things, but...
So I had the decks already, and that's when I was saying, I was like, all the jazz funk and certain records that I want, and I think I paid 50 quid for a... Back then, Ron, like 86 for an encore, which you Cheryl Lynn, you couldn't find it anywhere. So I was collecting music. It's just when I went out to Future, and then I started playing loads of house music. Then I started making my own tapes for the house.
Okay.
Then a tape got given to my friend Bobby, who we mentioned before. He was in Starlight Express, and Bobby went, I want you to do my party, and it just...
That snowballed from there,
It snowballed from there.
I mean, I remember the earliest sort of like examples that I remember you from were... I didn't even know who you were. Your face, didn't know who you looked like. But it was from the early days of like Amnesia House and like more like events that were more sort of like up north than that.
Totally.
And at that time, even for myself, I wasn't sort of like embedded in any scene as such. You get what I mean? But those events were some of them that I used to be at, and you were there, and they had like somebody sent me a flyer recently. And when you look at I mean, you couldn't even pick a lineup like that now. And you had like Carl Cox on there, this person, that person. It was like quite. All those DJs have gone on to completely carve out their own careers, but in different genres of music.
Yeah.
So how was it that you were doing? I think we touched on it a bit about the last time, but just go into it a bit more about how it ended up that you were doing more music up north as a DJ.
So Bobby, who I mentioned, Bobby, I don't know, about 89, Bobby sent to me Shum. I think the scene was responsible mainly by two mainly promoters at that point. Shum was doing the thing down at the fitness centre, which was Danny Rampling, and then you had Oki, Nancy and Lisa doing Future and Spectrum. Bobby said to me, Shum are doing something in Amsterdam, do you want to come? Okay. Bobby paid for me. I've never been on a plane before. Just one of them E's. On the plane. Oh, mate, we had so much fun. When we was in Amsterdam, I met a dude called Cornell from Birmingham. We got on really well. When we got home, he come round my house to see me. We had, played music. I was like in my room and da-da-da. I'm going to bring you up north, Mick. Cornell brought me up north. No one was up there. Zero.
And what year is this now?
I'd say 89.
89, okay, yeah.
I'd say about 89. Everything was getting crashed in London, quite a lot. And I weren't really getting nowhere. I started concentrating on up north. And I never looked back to the point, and it was like, right, Mick, do you know Groove? Do you know Fabio? Can you get, and I think I even drove around Fabio's house.
So at that time, were you already on Groove Connection, or you weren't yet?
Sarah was at DJ's United.
Yeah.
So I think I joined DJ's United in '89. And Sarah opened Groove Connection in '90.
Right, okay.
Maybe around exactly the same time, maybe not. There might have been a bit of a difference, but exactly the same time I started going up north, it's exactly the same time I joined Sarah opened Groove Connection.
Right, okay. And I mean, how did she know about you then, and how did that kind of like relationship form? I mean, it's something
Frankie
to ask Valentine, yeah.
Frankie took me up to DJ's United. Sarah looked after all of us. We all went with Sarah. Right. So I met Sarah through Frankie Valentine. Obviously, I'd known Groove and Fabio through. It was weird because the Mendoza gig that Fabio was talking about, that him and Groove met at, I was at that.
Right, okay.
I was one of them geezers walking out the road.
You was a skinhead? Yeah.
I was.
It was Mickey.
No, but I used to go to. I know Chris quite well, and I used to go to Mendoza's nearly every week. I think one night I didn't even make it in the club.
Right.
I literally, so if you got there at 3:30, 3 o'clock, I think Spectrum used to end. By the time you got from Charing Cross to Brixton, and it was almost like down a little alley. It was a proper shabam, which is great. I never made it in the club one night. It was just like everyone started walking out. I was like, "Where's everyone going?" They're like, "It's over, Mickey. I've been jibby jabby in the in the alleyway talking to people." Yeah.
So just to go back a little bit, because then we said Sarah and Groove Connection was around just as you were starting to go up north, but you'd already known Groove and Fabio.
Yes.
So then how did you know them if you were only going to the club as a punter?
No, I was still working in London.
Oh, you were?
I was still working in London. I'd done a couple of rain dances. I'd done a Back to the Future, but it weren't as happening as what it was. The main concentration on that police force that come out was down here. The helicopter going up on Saturday morning looking for tents. The helicopters going up for Saturday morning looking for convoys of lorries was all starting to happen about that time, because they are still all illegal parties at that point. Another party's been crashed. Another party's been crashed. I was still doing parties down here, but not as. It was really vibrant up north, and it was a clean slate. They'd literally just started getting into maybe what we'd been into, or what down south had been into for at least 18 months, maybe 2 years. Yeah. It was just starting to happen up there, and I loved it. I mean, I was up there so much that people was putting Micky Finn, Midlands, and people ring me and go, "Mate, you're not a brummie." I'm like...
I think I've actually seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've actually seen
because I was up there so much. Yeah. The first time JP rung me, he was like, "Mate, we thought you was a Northerner the way you're up there so much. We thought you was a Northerner." I love Northerners, mate. I love working up there. One thing I really noticed with up north and down south, especially London, is they can't go out every night of the week. They're not spoiled. So come the weekend, it's party time. And I noticed that, this Londoner, nothing wrong with that, but Londoners, come Friday and Saturday, party time, they've been out Wednesday, been out Tuesday, been out Friday. I just felt there was something a bit more special up there as what they done with their week.
Interesting point. I never really thought about it.
What they done with their weekend.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. I mean, so you're up north and it's the early 90s, yeah?
Yeah.
And you are doing gigs down here, but actually it's more up there where you're kind of building your name and what have you.
Yeah.
And again, for me, I never really associated you with London. I always kind of like associated you with up north as well. And then obviously, you know, there's this iconic picture of, you know, like you, Groove, Fabio, Frost and Brian.
The one where Jack's really happy.
I think he's smiling, yeah.
Oh, he's not.
Is it?
He's like that. No.
Is he smiling in it? He's got a hat on, right? He's got a hat. Yeah. I can't remember.
I love that picture.
Yeah. And by that time, I mean, I've said it in the past, you know what I mean? But by that time, for me, you guys had already cemented your sort of like position in whatever this burgeoning scene was of ours, yeah? Yet, I still really didn't see you a lot on flyers in London. Then all of a sudden, I say all of a sudden, you know what I mean? I'll let you explain the years and how it came about. For me, it started with AWOL. And then when AWOL came about, that's when the explosion of like the junglist Micky Finn came about. Do you know what I mean? So take me through that a bit.
Do you know what, Ron? AWOL started in '92, so jungle ain't even on the radar yet. It was all floor to the floor. So we were still in an hardcore scene. The original team for AWOL was me, Gashay, Kenny, Trevor Fung, who is instrumental. He's instrumental. I said to Darren,
I didn't know that he was on that. I didn't.
Yeah, he was a Swanee.
Yeah, I remember Swanee was on there.
Yeah, Swanee. That was the original team. So it was very floor to the floor. I wouldn't even say jungle started getting, you know, really like, oh, that's different. Something's going on here.
That's really interesting. I'll tell you why. Fabio said that they were doing their thing, then AWOL came along. Then I interjected and I said, Roast were doing their thing. While there was, in the very early days of Roast at
down on the boat? Or
no.
Because it started Sunday, right? Like you said in...
Down at Clerkenwell, yeah?
Turnmills.
At Turnmills, yeah. Sorry about that. While they were down at Turnmills, it was still very kind of like housey as well. You could play house music there.
Yeah.
You know, you could play house music. I remember being there, and that was the night when I was like, oh, I'm going to play more breaks. But by 91, do you know what I mean? By 92 even, it definitely way by 92, this was a jungle rave. So it's interesting that I didn't have AWOL on my radar at all, probably because I didn't see it as a jungle rave. Maybe it was because later on down the line, and I've never really considered that.
Yeah, maybe it got well known for it, but you're talking about a couple of years up the road from
later on down the line,
from when it started.
Yeah. When people were turning up, when Randall was playing there, when was G MCing at the time?
Only.
Right, he was the only person at that time. Yeah.
Like Gary, like I'd see these MCs now, like. Coming up to 5 to the hour, who's on next? And I'm like, my man would do 12 hours.
Yeah.
And ride out the whole place.
Yeah, and wasn't Richie there as well at one point?
Richie was down
in another room or something.
Yeah, in the other room with
Frankie.
Frankie.
The other Frankie.
And Tony.
Yeah. And Tony, that's right. Yeah. So that's really interesting. You brought me back there because there is this sort of like this questioning about the linkage and the lineage of like clubs and how they formed and their heritage and whatever. And I think that Paradise, by what you've just now said, has kind of like joined a link for me.
Yeah.
Because it seemed to be as though it was there earlier.
It definitely was there earlier.
But I don't remember it being there earlier. And this is why, because it was more like a house club. That's what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say...
And that was in 92, it was a house club, you're saying?
So the jungle thing happened when the team turned a bit more Randall, Darren, me, Kenny, Gachet.
And what most people know of Paradise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're mostly talking at the end of '93. So you're mostly
that's
talking.
That's a big deal because by '93, jungle was like on the radio. Everybody's playing jungle by that time.
Yeah.
You know,
you're kind of coming out of like we're starting to the kick drums becoming less and less.
And that's when I kind of knew it from. I think.
Yeah. I think that's when it really blew. You know, they had the 1 o'clock in the afternoon red eye sessions.
Yeah. That's when I remember it. I remember I've got visions of like going there and even seeing Ragga Twins and Navigator in the crowd. Do you know what I mean? With their bandanas. Do you know what I mean?
Well, but I could maybe, I know we're going to go back, but I'm still a raver. I can remember seeing Flinty and Demon, and mostly for me, they've mostly been in it longer than even me, Groove and Fabio, you know, and Jack.
In a different context, though.
Yeah. But I can remember seeing them at Astoria on stage. I was in the crowd as a raver, and they had maybe done. They used to put stuff out with...
Shut Up and Dance.
Shut Up and Dance.
Yeah.
Like,
So that's what I'm saying. It's a different context. It's not them as we know them. They were like, yes, they were MCs. Yes, they were MCing over breaks and what some might deem the earliest sort of like forms of jungle or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was in a PA setting.
Yeah, they're totally. I mean, as in art, you know, them
That's
performing as
yeah.
artists.
Yeah, not as an MC, like, you know, like they're going to do an hour and then come off. It was more like in a PA setting. Yeah.
But I think AWOL really blew up when we're now fully into, you know, the jungle.
Yeah.
But I'd say it took couple of years. Don't get me wrong, still rammed every night. I think it was rammed from the moment they opened. But a different music was, you know, you're talking 130 odds, 140 odd BPM rather than where we ended up like maybe 160 and 65 at jungle, you know.
You know, not to go too far forward, but just to take a couple of steps back about when you were up north and DJing. So if you imagine that you're doing that, because I remember I read one of the comments once and somebody was like, oh, you didn't speak about this rave and you didn't speak about that rave. And it was like, there were like some big parties up north. And
huge.
Yeah, they were like big parties. And this was like almost... They took over London in many ways.
I would definitely say so.
Yeah, they took over London in many ways. So you know, when you think about places like, I mean, one of my favourites, and I mean, I big up Mickey Linus, God rest his soul. Do you know what I mean? And all those guys from Amnesia House. For me, they were like my epicenter. You know what I mean? Like when it came to that. But were there any sort of like ones that you could kind of like pinpoint as being?
I mean, there were some great promoters end up coming out of the north. Powerful brands, Renaissance, God's Kitchen. They were all started off as raver kind of promoters rather than end up owning clubs and being...
Because Mickey and them didn't have a clue. They were just like, you know, Nev... Oh, no disrespect, but they were like football hooligans from up north.
Yeah.
That then went into the rave game and they done a bloody good job at it.
Yeah, but you won't go into football hooligans, but some of them are really clever.
Yeah. I don't know where it comes. It's like switching their brain into another gear, and then they've just gone.
They know how to make money, mate. They're clever. They're very entrepreneurial. So
I want to just say a big shout goes out to those boys, actually, Joe. I mean, you've done a really good job.
Yeah,
really good job.
I kind of Neville. I saw from when we last filmed till now.
Yeah.
I went and done an Amnesia House. Maybe I don't know if it was maybe October, might have been September. I'm not sure. Absolutely rammed. People having the time of their lives. they had some big promoters.
Bam, all those boys.
Perception, Bam.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of big promoters. I mean, the Book of Love. They had some big, huge gigs up there, and I loved it. I think we said about it before. I was mostly staying in Birmingham. Sometimes we'd drive home on Sunday, and I've been up there since Thursday or the Wednesday, and I'm driving back down to London depressed.
Because you wanted to stay up?
I just couldn't wait to get back up north again.
Right.
It was Sunday, I'm like, what, we're going home? Like, I want to go back up there. Because I was up there so much and I loved it, and I had a lot of friends up there. I find them really welcoming. I still love up north. But I think, like you said, they started for sure overtaking, if we just say down south, because London's only a little bit of down south. They mostly started taking over. Leroy used to put on some SS, and his partner Idris used to. So they had kind of the whole Leicester area locked off, and yeah, you're talking 6 o'clock in the morning, the Eclipse.
Big parties.
I love going up north. They're party people.
It's interesting that this conversation that we're having is more about your career than your life, because when you think about it, that's like this. Even though it's like over 30 years, it seems like, you know what I mean? It's like these just big blocks of time, isn't it? It's like you got this block, which is like the, I suppose, the rave era. Then you got like the jungle era.
It's like a record, isn't it? You got the intro.
Yeah.
The drop.
Yeah, it is like
the
that.
breakdown.
Yeah. And so, well, not the main breakdown, the nervous breakdown. The midlife crisis
the
breakdown.
of a tune, not the person.
Right, but this whole, like movement from like, like as a house DJ, then to like a house sort of like playing a bit of breaks DJ up north and what have you, and then coming down and then Paradise starting and being really, that's like quite pioneering really when you think about it, that you're going to take that club, because you were there throughout its entire history. It wasn't like you were there, you came in at a certain thing and then went, bang, oh, wicked, there we go. You help steer that club to what it is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Along with everybody else, do you know what I mean?
Jay would call me and go, right, Mick, da-da-da-da-da. You cool with that? All right.
What do you mean? What's da-da-da-da-da?
Whatever the topic was about.
Right, yeah.
Are you cool with that? What? Have you asked everyone else? What's everyone else? No, I ain't spoken to no one else yet.
Right.
Are you cool with
it?
But
there you
because
go.
I use you. And I was like, whoa, like...
Well, it's funny you say that, because even
we're a
Gary...
team.
No, I hear that, but it's actually quite interesting, because even now you reminded me of something, because Gary always used to say to me, he used to kind of like lead with something about Paradise with Micky. So he'd be like, yeah, the thing about that, because Micky said, and it was like, he wouldn't say Jay said.
He would use me as the shop steward, Jay. He was Jay's one of the, no disrespect, Jay's one of the only people that I know will have Eskimos walking away going, how much you pay for that snow?
Yeah.
Like
Big up Jay Pender.
Yeah, he's like, his head's always...
And so with that, you consider that, you know what I mean? You were there, and again, just going over it again, thanks for reminding me. Or actually, you're not even reminding me. I didn't know that they were that there even at 92. I didn't even know they existed at 92.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And why? Because they were this house club, as you're saying.
Yeah.
But then you helped steer this club, and you've taken it through the ages. I mean, they were going for how many years?
Oh, what, till it closed?
Yeah.
Well, when that building got bought, they moved it round to, what's the place? Victoria. They moved it to Victoria, didn't they?
Oh, I don't even remember.
Yeah, they moved it to Victoria because they had to get out of the building. I can't remember. I can't remember what the place was called. I don't think it worked once they moved it. It did, but a club can be very important.
Venue, a venue,
know,
and its location as well. Like where that was in the Angel was.
I kind of thought it was a very neutral.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember this place in Victoria.
It was literally not far from. Was it
SW1?
That's it.
Was it there? Yeah.
Yeah, right on the main road.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So you kind of location-wise, you kind of, Battersea, Brixton, and I think the lots that end up having tear-ups where maybe someone got really hurt was them fracturing people that are having outside trouble.
Yeah, I mean it could work. I mean there's so many factors you could put into it. It could be that. It could be the sign of the times. Do you know what I mean? Because at that time things were.
It was still busy. It was still packed. The vibe wasn't the same.
Yeah.
There was an underlying. Am I safe here?
Yeah. Oh, really? Right. Yeah.
It was a bit volatile. I don't know if it was just that bit nearer. I'd definitely say that AWOL. I don't know. I don't know when it ended. I don't know if it was where it kind of took a back seat.
What I find quite interesting from everything you've said so far with regards to like this sort of like timeline then, is that when you think about AWOL and them being there from 92, whatever context they were in, they were there from 92 until whenever they ended, whether it was, whether in some people's mind the real ending was at Paradise Club or whether it was at SW1, they sort of like stood the test of time in terms of going along in the same timeline as the scene was.
Yeah.
So while that was happening, other promoters were coming up, other brands were being invented, etc., etc. But they were quite a staple then, right? What do you think was the kind of like main characteristics for that? Do you know what I mean? But just speaking particularly about the Paradise days.
That team was there week in, week out. I think people get used to that team, what they bring to the table. We had 2-hour sets, like that's what Jay wanted. And I just, it's like Fabio and Groove at Rage. You just turn up and you know what you're going to expect. You know what they're going to give you. You know what they're going to play. I think people got used to that. It was a great team of people, and it was held together for me by, no disrespect to anyone else, but the best MC in the game for me. I always used to say to people, I could play a record and in a million years I know Gary's never heard it, because I never heard it till a few hours ago before I cut it and turned up at Paradise.
Yeah.
He'd never heard that tune before and he'd ride it like he knew when to shut up. I just think the whole team was just gelled together by Gary.
That's a serious piece of compliment, to be fair, do you know what I mean?
I think Gary was untouched. He's got this, he doesn't say a lot, but when he does, it's so powerful. And I think sometimes a good MC knows when to shut up and let the record breathe, let the record do its thing, jump back on it again. He is a proper mic compere, He contributes to the music, like he just don't want to. You've got to hear my voice all night.
Yeah.
Sometimes he'd put the mic in his pocket, turn it off, put the mic in his pocket, and walk to the bar, which was totally cool them days. Or he'd just go on a walkabout and go and talk to his friends or whatever, and just like you're on your own for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Which you didn't mind because you wasn't in an MC-driven scene at that time. They were fairly quiet. If you go back to 88, you're mostly talking about Timmy, my old mate, who was the hardcore general.
Yeah, I remember
Timmy,
yeah.
Timmy Teo, and Daddy Chester. You're talking about that they were the first people for me that I'd heard on the mic, and it was very. It wasn't needed as much as what it was then. It was almost like it was a contribution to the already good music, rather than now it seems to be, or it is, really important. I mean, I could maybe go to 20 years ago, where me and you could have been a cardboard cutout, mate. It was about the MCs on the flyer that was putting the arses on seats, you know. I'm sure I ain't on my own when I say a lot of people rate Gary. He's a great person anyway, and I think it makes what he does even more, I won't say attractive because people get the wrong idea, but he's, being the person that Gary is, I love him, mate.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's interesting. A really nice compliment that is. You know what I mean? He'll appreciate it.
It's where I met Gary as well, and we got on like an house on fire.
Yeah, and that's what I said to you earlier. You know, he always used to kind of like hold you as well in high regard, and you know, whenever
ponytail, didn't I?
Yeah,
I was the original Hell's Angel to Gary.
Yeah, whenever he would speak about a situation, he would reference it by point of Micky Finn, as though it was like almost like a, you know, this reference. Well, I was reading Micky Finn, and what it says in Micky Finn that you got to do this.
Rules.
Yeah. So that's really nice. He'll appreciate that.
I think where Jay maybe at that time just saw me as the busier one out of the team, he would, if I clear it with you, they'll all be cool with it.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
Me and Gary, as well as Randall, but me and Gary had this unbelievable connection at AWOL. We didn't grow up together like you two did, but we got on like house on fire straight away. So then when it went into the World Dance lot from the same AWOL team, as in the background team, not the DJs. Me and Gary was already off at the races at AWOL, so as soon as we got on the stage at things like World Dance, we already had a magical connection, you know? Yeah.
I touched on it just now when I was saying about the fact that that era of AWOL kind of like went through pretty much the glory days of jungle and what have you. And you just mentioned, obviously, World Dance and whatever, where a lot of the promoters did that to some degree, you know, like not necessarily to the level of World Dance, in my opinion. Yeah. They didn't really come from a club and then go mini festival. Yeah. They went from a small club to a bigger club, and then a bigger club, or the biggest club that you could have, but they didn't do these little, what they were like jungle, they were like the jungle versions of the rave days. And that's how I saw World Dance. But before we get into World Dance, I just wanted to say, for those who didn't go to Paradise, now there's going to be a bunch of people looking at this, and I know that for a fact because people all around the world are like, kind of like, oh man, wicked, it was great about the history. They'd be really keen to know, like, tell me a little bit more about Paradise and before we get into World Dance and it, not just its influence on the circuit, but also what it was like as a nightclub. You know, like walk us through like the evening, so to speak, you know what I mean, in its glory days.
In its glory days, I think first and foremost you got a door team, which leads on to safety, which leads on to people having the time of their lives. So their door team was really on point. But I think I see a geezer and his missus have a tear up and she slapped him round the face is as far as the trouble got in that club for me. And I think that has a huge effect on the vibrations that are running through the club. You've got a nasty door team and people are coming in there already pissed off and jarred. You ain't going to get a great vibe. I thought the vibe in there was electric. I can remember doing a Desire once at Roller Express and Phil had a sound system in there that then went on to become Was Eskimo Noise. No one knew. I slipped over to the fella whose sound system it was. I give it to JP and I went, mate, you've got to get this fucking sound system in this club.
It is the other day actually. Somebody from there.
From Eskimo Noise.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. So I kind of hooked Jay up with the Eskimo Noise system went in there, and then it was curtains.
Yeah. He'll appreciate you saying that because you know we did the talk about Music House.
Got ya.
He hit me up on
Bernard, or
no, it's another name. I don't think it was a Bernard. It was
I think Neil sold it to Bernard. Bernard sold it. So Troy, who ended up going round.
I can't remember the name, but the guy hit us and he was like, "Oh, how comes you've got RCA speakers there? We should have been there." And I was like, I think they were just like in house. But yeah, it was nice to hear that name again.
Troy was the dread that Goldie ended up taking around with him. So I'm sure Goldie put the system into the Blue Note on a Sunday as well, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, that's right.
But that sound system, and going back to that team, so you've got me very active, Kenny very active, Randall very active, Darren very active, and that's not just DJing, cutting plates, being fresh, really, really up front. I'd say at one point for me, I would say it was the most upfront club in the world because it was a residency. It wasn't like I'm turning up here Saturday. Like, you had to be on your game, you know. And we was there week in, week out, 2-hour sets, so you could take people on a journey. I loved Paradise. A lot of people couldn't wait. You know, maybe some nights would have done 3 gigs by the time I got to the Paradise. And the same for the other team as well, because we were all really busy. We were all, you know, we were all over the country, and some of us going all around the world at that point. It was a great mixture of people. People used to come everywhere to go to Paradise. It wasn't a London thing. It wasn't just
maybe it was a London something.
But
maybe it was me.
You had people there from up north. You had people there from Wales. You know, you had a week in, week out as well. We weren't like, oh, let's go down to London like once, or because you had the 6 o'clock finish, and if it weren't the 6 o'clock finish, it was the 1 o'clock the next afternoon finish. I think they did that once a month, which we all nicknamed the Red Eye session.
So no, explain that again. What was the times on that?
So the night went till 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
Then I think he might have pushed a couple till 10, and then once a month it used to do one the next afternoon.
Yeah, because I remember people used to turn up there in the daytime.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, turn up. So they were like, I'm starting now. Yeah. And then they'd go through for like a number of hours.
And artists as well. It's like, oh, I'm not on till like 11 o'clock till 1.
Yeah.
Like, why am I going to go down there the night before and just be rat-arsed?
Yeah.
So it got well known for them sessions. All the artists finished work, make their way to the Paradise Club.
Yeah, that's right. I remember it as well.
It had that vibe going on where...
I miss that vibe where
it's that place.
Where everybody can just meet up.
Yeah.
I mean, I miss that. Do you know what I mean? But it's still nice when you see people out and all the rest of it, and that's a good laugh.
Yeah, you know, and if you're coming down the bottom of the A, like for Groove, who might have just had to slip off the A2 and go home, and he's like, OK, let me make my way over to the Angel. Yeah. You knew it was worth making your way over to the Angel.
Yeah, that's right. And you knew people would be there. Do you know what I mean? It's like another extension of like Music House or something like that. You know what I mean? But
it was just a great vibe created in there. You know.
And you're right what you say about the level of like music and the standard and the the levels were high.
Because I suppose like when Fabio was saying, like when you've got a bit of a hit place and you have people throwing their stuff at you on. I mean, honestly, I had Champion Sound Boys, which is the Q project, which is Quiff, Smithy and that. But back in the day, Oxford Hardcore, Graham would be outside my house at 6 o'clock in the morning because he just finished something in the studio.
Yeah.
He knows I'm getting in from work and he wants me to play at Paradise that night. And I'm like, Graham, like, 6 o'clock in the morning, dude. You know, I don't matter.
No, I love that.
Zinc was giving me Sharp Shooter on cassette.
Yeah.
And that Mick.
Yeah.
Because
I love those stories.
You are the advertising board for their product, right? It is what, you know, we happen to be human, but we are advertising boards. I had majors ringing me out all the time, Ron. What are you playing, Mick, that's hot? Well, hold on a minute. ain't you the AR man?
Yeah.
What do I get out of this?
Yeah.
Like, what you planning this up? We know you're planning loads of new stuff.
Yeah.
Because you start to realise you're an advertising board, or I am, which I didn't mind.
I think we could say it now. I was an advertising board, but at that time, it wasn't really like that. At that time, it was just like, it went hand in hand.
Yeah, totally.
You wanted that dub plate, and they wanted to give it to you.
Oh,
And as a DJ, you had a number of people that you knew were a safe pair of hands. That if he's in the lab, I want what's coming out of there. Do you know what I mean?
I can't remember. I mean, now, because we don't get them, but if you think the promos that used to come through your door, like, I don't know, sometimes in a week, brand envelopes, binders, whatever you want to call them, sometimes I had an understanding with the postman when I moved down to Kent, just, if I ain't in, take them over the pub, don't leave them outside my door, someone will chore them. And I would go over the pub and they'd be like, "Here's today's post."
Yeah.
Them promo companies are gone, right?
Yeah. In that context, they're gone. They're still about in terms of their digital sort of like
one or
existence,
two, but
you know what I mean?
think that it's literally down to one or two of them now, maybe three.
Yeah, I think I mean,
engines.
there's about three of them that I kind of like subscribe to. But I think it was like, but I think those three. I mean, it's a different time, isn't it? You know, I mean, what they're putting out there is like so much stuff. I mean, everybody, they would take anybody. I'd imagine.
Me and Darren was having this conversation the other day, and I said, if you think what we used to do to go and buy music, like Ron, around 88, I was after this record called Split Second. Only Paul Oakenfold played it. He was the only person that played it. And I come out of this club one night, the venue in New Cross, was in there with two of me mates. Chemicals, tripping, whatever. And I said, boys, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I've got to go to Belgium to get this record.
Really?
I've got to go to Belgium to get this record. And they were like, yeah, of course. Like, we're all, cuckoo. And I went, right, let's go home to my house. We'll sit about 4 o'clock in the morning. We'll sit about for about an hour, smoke, whatever. So we did. 7 o'clock, half 7, I was like, right, come on, let's go, I'm going Belgium. And we went down to Dover. Them days you could get a day passport to Belgium. And I went over to Belgium, come back that night, and I got Split Second.
See?
Then Darren was like, wow, you think I used to go to a record shop in Portsmouth. I used to meet Cole Coxey at Waterloo, and we'd go to a record shop in Portsmouth. This is all prior. The British have got quite a big grip on the scene, jungle, So it's all Italian house, Belgium, Holland, American. So there's a lot of imports going on. This shop down in Portsmouth used to specialise in that kind of stuff. We used to go to a record basement when Phil had his shop in Reading. We'd make him close the shop at night, so we wouldn't turn up to about 9:30, and then we'd be in there to about 4 or 5 in the morning.
Wow.
Just go, there's your stack of records, Mick. There's a deck. And we're basically saying what people do now for music is sent to you. There's no going, well, I weren't looking for that, but I'll have it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's just, again, another one of those nuances about showing the sign of the times, and it is what it is. I think the moment everything went digital, it was inevitable that there was a lot of people going to go out of business, and B, that there were going to be a lack of access.
Or if you go back to what Darren said at the dub plate thing,
which was a very good point. Yeah.
It is exactly kind of too many people. Like, I wasn't waiting for it to land in my lap. I've got to go and find it. I want to go and find that next best record that's going to turn them people on. If it means that I've got to go and get on a ferry to Belgium, or go down to Portsmouth, or sit in fields till 4 o'clock in the morning, and then when Darren said that, the light bulb actually went on to me as well. It was like, wow, you literally are just checking out stuff that people are sending you. You're not...
Well, actually, you went even that bit further, which is on that talk, which that dubplate culture talk we did, and when he just said, like, we actually used to buy records.
You're never going to be able to do that if all you're looking at is basically what's sent or what these platforms that you're talking about thinks that you like.
I think he made a great point, and it's not that far from, if you're careful with it and if you're diligent about it and you consider it properly, it's not that far away from what it was like physically. You've got so many distributors. They've got tons of records. When you used to go, don't forget, you'd go to the record shop, you'd be playing you'd hear loads of stuff in the record shop. But the whether it was whoever it was behind the deck, they would only play you some stuff. And out of those some stuff, you still wouldn't take it all. You'd only go, oh, let's have one of those. I'll have one of those. So when you think about it with these digital distributors, it's the same. You know, like, but how many records can we say, I'm going to speak for myself, how many records can I say that I'm going to go into the rabbit hole of Bandcamp or some other one, Beatport or whatever. Yeah. I'm going to go down into that rabbit hole and I'm going to find some gems. When was the last time you did that? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And that's the point, really, what Darren, I think, which is an amazing point that you're saying, because we, in a way, may say, oh, it's not like this anymore, it's not like that anymore, but are we actually making the effort like it was back in the day, or are we just going, I'll just take what's given to me?
Yeah, no, it's exactly the point I made. I mean, me and Darren would, you know, we weren't only trying to get selective, I don't know, City Sounds, Black Market, a little, you know, they'd have a little pile for you. We were going into distributors, so we were slipping in the back door of Mo's Music Machine, or we would go into SRD, or we would go up to
Bobsy and all of them.
Yeah, because they are, you're in the middle, you're getting to them before they get to the shops, you know?
I wanted to ask you about, I wanted to touch on World Dance a bit now.
Okay.
I mean, because, you know, like, obviously, that was an incredible brand. Do you know what I mean? I mean, frankly, I'm surprised that it didn't continue, but... Or maybe is that what morphed into the on-road AWOL that's currently available to us? But I don't know. But for the moment, let's just speak about it in its original sort of like format.
No, I mean, JP and Chris, who started both AWOL and World Dance, it's one of my first big gigs ever, 1989, was World Dance. I didn't know JP then. I went through Anton, the pirate, who I'm sure you can remember from rave days. Right. Anton also gave me my first gig. I kind of started at the Tunnel Club, which is now Studio 338. That's where I kind of started my career, through Anton as well. Me and Anton was really close. I loved Anton. When everyone started going their own ways and I met JP, it all come out that JP was also to do with World Dance in the background. Anton was like the face.
Okay.
When he told me he was doing World Dance again and they found an aircraft hangar, I was used to the aircraft hangars already, I'm sure you was, because we was into all the illegal parties and, you know, if this can be turned into a snazzy place, whatever it is, let's turn, you know. I already knew what World Dance brought to the table through when Anton done it. It was an amazing gig. It must have been my first big gig, slung in front of 8,000 people. So I got used to crowds quite quickly. I think I was DJing maybe 6 months on, I don't know, a year. I thought World Dances at Lid was something very, very special because there was no one coming with that kind of production. It was full scale, not like here's a few lights and a bit of smoke.
I mean, it's interesting you said like they were there from 89.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't remember them that early, but But what I do remember of them and that Lid Airport specifically was the fact how they had taken what was the best of the early acid rave scene and just given it some steroids and turned it into somewhere that when people left, they were like, you know what, I'll definitely come back to that again.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think that's kind of what they went after. Like, Jay loves the that kind of warehouse vibe, which is, you know, what we all grew up coming to the scene in the acid house scene. And like you said, he kept pushing, you know, oh, it's like, yeah, this one looked like the last one. No, it didn't. They had a stage in the middle of the room, stage at that end, stage at that end. This one's a beach party, bring in like 40 tonne of sand.
An elephant.
You know, yeah, you know, yeah, I thought they'd done some brilliant parties, and you could see that now, I don't know, Cream in the Fields, I think, was kind of almost based on what Jay was doing at World Dance. People started looking at it going, right, that's what it looks like you've got to come with. I mean, I don't know if they was, because Jay was putting bootloads of production in there, you know. Yeah, I love World Dance.
So then, Mick, you know, so there we have it. You know, I mean, you've throughout this period of time of World Dance and AWOL and this, that, and the other, you also were quite a prolific producer as well. Do you know what I mean? With like your label and a lot of records that came out from that time. You know, I mean, a lot of people know them. Walk me through a little bit of that, like history, for those who might not have had the chance to experience it or what have you.
We started, I suppose, after Some Justice. We got a lot of remix work from all different genres of music. I mean, we remixed I don't know if we spoke about this on the last one, which they were called Alabama 3. They do the intro music for The Sopranos. So we did a mix of that before The Sopranos took it off as the theme music. The Jungle Brothers were also a part of my coming into, you know, acid house as well. So that kind of had I really wanted to do that, and plus they were really tight on their flows and their bar work. Yeah, we did Yaz. I did the Beastie Boys, Janet Jackson. We got a lot of remix work through. I think rental companies just go and look at what they've done for a previous rental company. You know, they mostly didn't even know what me and Gavin did. They just mostly looked and went, yeah, they're doing good things for other people. And
I remember you said to me something as well. I vaguely remember you saying something about being in Miami and the Jungle Brothers being there, and I think that was the year I got arrested there or something. What happened there with them? You were on the beach or something, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I was just walking on the beach, and then they just come walking up. They're really cool dudes as well, by the way. But they was like, Mickey, we was about to throw the towel in, and that remix you've done for us is basically give us a whole new lease of life.
Oh, really? Really?
And I just found that really humbling, you know.
What a nice thing.
Yeah, really nice, you know.
Yeah, what a nice thing.
They just basically went like, mate, we're touring, all on the back end of, you know, True Blue. And how ironic that they're called the Jungle Brothers.
Yeah, innit?
They were one of the people that I was really into, you know, great house music. You could see that they were an hip-hop act crossing over to this hip house kind of vibe, which I was really into. And I just found it really humbling, you know, that you could help someone pull their career back up and then all of a sudden they're touring again.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, I loved it. We did a lot of remix work. We obviously was doing our own production as well, me and Gavin. One half of Urban Shakedown had gone off to do his own thing. So me and Gavin just carried on cracking on. Yeah, and just doing our thing. I mean, we got offered a record deal which never materialised really, because we just thought they wanted us to deliver too much for what they wanted to give us. Yeah, we had a good run to the point where it was like, right, we kind of really need to start refusing remixes now and doing our own stuff.
I mean, while you're speaking about doing your own stuff, and reminds me of something that you said when we spoke the last time, but not sure how much detail we got into it, which was when you and a few other people from the scene ended up going and doing some work at a prison.
Yeah.
And you know, I think we did touch on it, but for those who missed the last one, do you know what I mean? Just kind of like elaborate on that for me a bit.
A friend of mine was in there, and he'd put this, it was Coldenley Prison, he'd put this multicultural day together with other inmates. So when me, Darren, Footloose and Majika and a friend of mine turned up, we literally, with our record boxes, we had to be searched going into the prison, like you're going on a VO visit. Dogs all round the record boxes, let us in. The tubby's set up in the exercise yard. And it was just it's really surreal to kind of go, right, there's a stage set up in the exercise yard and they're playing dub. And then when he finished, Colombian panpipe people come on. That was obviously, you know, it's a multicultural day. And when it come to us going on, they straight away started getting complaints from all the houses around the prison.
Oh, really?
Because of the subs and the bass lines, and so the officers come over, right, we're getting too many complaints, like we're going to have to stop. So, okay, well, let's go and set it up in the gym then. Right, I'm going to get no complaints in there. And they literally de-rigged the system, Ron. Like, I've never seen a system get de-rigged. You ain't got 500 workers at hand, right? De-rigged it, run it into the gym, set it back up, but with minimal, you know, not all the stacks and everything. And we was back at it, I'd say, like 20 minutes, half hour. You know, 300 the dudes in there, you know, having the time of their lives, shoes off, slapping walls. And it was mostly one of the best memories. There's something that you're never going to forget.
Yeah.
And seeing that I'd come from that silly life, to go back in there and now entertain them was brilliant for me, you know.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Footloose loved it, Majika loved it. You know, Darren, we had a really good time in there.
Yeah.
To give them a bit of an highlight, you know.
Yeah. Mick, you know what? We're coming to kind of close to wrapping up, which I think still feels short, this history, for some reason. Do you know what I mean?
But we can't, I said to my missus, I said, I can't see it being 2 hours again. I mean, we'd covered 2 hours previously.
Covered more than 2 hours last time, but we cut it down. But what I do want to say before we go is, like, to speak about your, like, what's happening now with you, you know what I mean? Because, like, as long as I've known you, well, not actually, no, more in recent times, I'd say. Do you know what I mean? I've seen more and more of you kind of like becoming more creative in areas that, while they're linked to music, they are not necessarily a piece of music. Actually, you know what? They are a piece of music.
Well, I think sports, fashion and music industries will always be linked somehow. You know, if you kind of go music, actors. But if you go music, sports stars...
And film.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't get that, for me, you don't get that immediate connection to actors and music as, say, like, sports stars and music.
Mm-hmm, OK.
I suppose I've always been a creative, inventive person from when I was a kid. Like, when I was saying to you two before, I'd have something really nice when I was a kid. If I ripped it here, I would just rip it here on purpose and then go and get both of them stitched up so it looked like it was done in... and it was bought.
Yeah.
Or I had a Prada cashmere cardigan, and I loved it.
It's quite a good tip, actually, that little tier thing.
Well, I love this cashmere cardigan, Ron, and the moths got to it, right? So the moths got to it, and it was like, oh, look, one here, one there, one there. So I just went and got the scissors and done another 10, and then took it down to dry cleaners and got them all stitched up. So it looked like it come out of Prada.
It looks all right as well.
It looks all right.
Yeah. Brilliant.
I mean, with the clobber, I always had this idea in my head of this tools of the trade thing. You know, I used to work on building sites, so the name tools of the trade, I suppose, comes from the building site. And I'd never seen people homing in on imagery. It all seemed to be the logo. And I just find that pretty boring. My brain won't let me do that. My brain will just go, that's too easy. Like, just have a bit of fun. And, you know, I went and bought white boxes, got a photographer around my house, put the deck in the white box. So we took all the photos, we own all the photos, and just try to come with a colour range that people don't go near. You know, like I said earlier, okay, what's everyone doing? Don't do it. What's everyone not doing? Do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, no, it's really, really nice. I like it a lot.
And I'm very into the sustainability and the organic thing right now. So this is all sustainable and organic. I don't want to kind of kill the planet with style. Which is kind of which I see a lot of brands doing.
Yeah, but there are people leaning more to that. And with that sustainability and reuse and stuff as well, you've done that with your house floor as well.
Exactly. I mean, I've got a few projects indoors. One of them involves my old passport pages. One of them involves a load of old phones. I like to give something that's had a life, a new life, if I can help it.
Yeah.
And it's the same with this, like all re-spun cotton. I'm using cottons that will all be found on the floor that usually gets thrown away out of these mill houses, these fashion houses. So we've done a lot of research on where's the, you know, if there's polyester in it, it needs to be bottles that ain't making their way to the landfill. You know, if there's, I don't want to be involved in, I'm not the kind of,
No, that's
you know,
really
if you can do it and be kind to the planet,
right. Yeah,
you know.
why not? And I think that if everybody followed that routine, then, I mean, we'd probably be in a much better place, certainly a safer place.
I think a lot of the fashion houses are now because they're having it put on them, you know, by someone like Stacey Dooley, for example, who has continuously put it on people. Yeah. You know, you should be using, I mean, I know I don't want to sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but to make 100% cotton T-shirt, do you know what a bowser of water is? No. A bowser of water is 1,000 litres. Oh, really? Right. Them big things you see at festivals. Yeah. Big plastic thing. All right, full of water. You mean, yeah. So that's a bowser. Okay. That's got 1,000 litres of water in it. It takes 16 of them to make one cotton T-shirt. How comes? Why? Why does it take 16 of them to make one T-shirt? For the life to grow that cotton to make that one T-shirt. And when I saw that, I was like, I can't buy these big brands no more. If it's 100% cotton, I can't buy it no more. And the kind of, the moral compass kicked in. Right, okay. Just village life of people, you know, where they taking this water from, and they're kicking people out of villages, and they might have used that water in that river to feed their family, and it goes on and on and on. And I'm just anal like that. My brain, I can't just go, oh, just turn away from it and don't look at it. Yeah. It's like, oh, no, now I've got to follow it, you know? And I've ended up at, but yeah, more stuff in the collection coming. Yeah, I'm gonna have to kind of tap you up for that, mate, and find out a little bit more about that stuff. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Because that's really interesting. It's quite brutal when you see, like, this is the fashion houses. Asia rules the kind of the industry. Asia, Turkey, and then you look at where all the fashion houses are, And then you look at, they've just nicked all the water out of the rivers because they just nick it. So all these people that used to live on this river, village, the houses on pegs and, you know, they all got to move. And I've said it to a few friends of mine that are quite heavily into brands, and I was like, dude, you just got to start looking at it.
Well, this is a good thing to be sharing here, you know what I mean? You know, like, you know, because even now I'm thinking, right, you know what? Because I'm looking at that top, you would never know it's been repurposed cotton.
Yeah,
You know
I won't use no, even the dyeing methods where they would use a completely different dyeing method of how they used to dye the fabric, and then it'd just all be sluiced into the river. Chemicals, so me and you live on that village, we ain't eating the fish because the fish are dead.
Right, yeah.
So we've got to move, like hundreds of miles, some of them. And it's stuff like that where it's like, how is it dyed? Like, how is this? Like, I had to go right into it because I just didn't want to be a part of all that.
It's amazing. Well done,
You know?
mate. Well done.
Just the whole thing, I don't eat meat anyway, but as soon as it went to cruelty to animals, if there's any of that involved, or, you know, people being displaced out of their village and all that stuff, because that's really how far you've got to go. Don't go to, like, I'll just go in George O'Mahony in Oxford Street.
Yeah.
And where does he get it from?
Yeah.
And where do they get it from? And it's going to come from somewhere. If people are getting displaced or all that stuff's going on, I don't want to be a part of it.
No, that's...
Right now, people go and turn this off.
No, I think that'd be... I mean, I love it because it's like, it shows another sort of like side and dimension to just somebody who people are switched on to go, I just want to listen to the story of the DJ and what happened at World Dance. It's like there are, I mean, we some of our guests, like some of them, we actually, by the time this comes out, they may have been on already or not. They'll be very surprised at what...
Seriously?
Of what us as normal human beings
and it's only
doing
me
and doing our private lives. So no, if they're switching off, then I get it that they might want to switch off. But for me, this is like what this is here for. This is why we're here.
And it was only, I didn't even, no one knows because we've got no reason to look at it. It's only because I started really looking into it and going, really? Really? Like, and getting the shocks out of my life because they ain't going to tell you the damage they're doing to the planet for you to look cool walking down the street or you to have the whatever in fashion. It's down to us. For me, I had to make up my own mind and go, well, if you're going to moan about it and then you're still doing it, you're just complicit. Like, you've got to stop. So I started offloading loads of stuff. No, I don't want to wear that. I'm not. I mostly own 2 pairs of jeans in my life right now, Rob.
Okay.
I'm being sick, like,
Right.
you know, as in the 90s, I'll go, right, what work have I got tonight? I'm going to jump out to Milan and go and buy some clothes. I don't need that. I don't need. Whereas before, you think, you kind of need to look.
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah.
How many pairs of jeans do you really, really need? You know?
Well,
Sweatshirts, a million, but pairs of...
Tools of the trade, not just sweatshirts.
Yeah.
Micky, thanks again for joining us, mate. Do you know what I
You're
mean?
welcome,
I really
man.
appreciate it. You know what I mean? You know, it's good to kind of like get like the timeline again, more of your career in this example.
Yeah, for sure.
Than we couldn't have fitted it in. It would have been like a 4-hour show.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I appreciate it, mate.
No, it was good.
Do you know what I mean? Nice one, brother.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Are you hungry?